Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Less Stress, More Bliss. I think that is the abridged title of this webinar, something a little different that we haven't done before, but it seems to be well called for. A couple of things I just want to point out before we get started is because of the nature of what we're doing today, if you're a private person and you don't want to share out or you don't want to have your name out there, you can rename yourself or take your name off, or you can just keep a blank screen. I want people to feel comfortable and not that they're divulging personal anything to the universe. Selena is going to cover a lot of different practices that are non-religious and are prevalent throughout cultures worldwide. So I just wanted you to know we're not making a pitch for anything along those lines. And finally, I just want to point out that Selena is a peer. She is an art teacher, and she is doing this because she wants to, as a kindness to us. And so we're really grateful for her time in presenting this to us today. And just a quick reminder, you want something to write on and something to write with as part of the activities that she's doing with us today. And so I'd like to introduce you to Selena Jane Wilson. And like I said, she's an art teacher in Riverside, and she has written a book, and she's going to take us through this hour together. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here and share these little tips and tricks that help me stay afloat during this intense life journey that we're all lucky to be in. And I just hope that this is helpful information, and please know that I won't be able to see your screen while I'm presenting. So my co-pilots here are gonna let me know if there's anything in the chat. All right, shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Okay, are we good?
We're good.
Wonderful. So yeah, I am Selena Wilson, and I did make a 45-page workbook. It was originally intended for students. I taught high school art for 16 years. I now teach middle school art at Riverside Virtual School. And what I found was, gosh, these are things that I learned later in life that I wish I would have known earlier in life. And after publishing the book, I found out that my friends loved the book and they were giving it to their parents and things. So I thought, well, maybe it's for everyone and not just teenagers. So yeah, one of the most important practices that I actually engage in every single day is breath work. So I would love for us to just come together right now and become present, become grounded, and really just tune into where we are, because we can just leave everything else to the side for right now. We just invested this hour in our own well-being. So let's go ahead and do that at the very beginning of this. So I'm going to invite everyone to just sit up tall, and you can put your feet on the ground. You can sit in any comfortable position, but if you can just start to notice the gravity holding you in place. And if you can place one hand up on your chest and one hand on your stomach, we're going to take 3 breaths together. And as you are breathing, let's just feel into our bodies. All that mental chatter, just turn it off. And let's go ahead and take one nice, big, deep inhale. And exhale. And another. And another. And keeping your hands on your chest and your belly. Just breathe normally for a moment and notice your physical sensations. Okay. I hope that that felt good and brought you to the present moment. Now we're going to take about 5 minutes and do a check-in just to get a baseline and also to give me some information that can help me kind of intuitively guide the rest of the presentation. So there is a Google form. So if everybody can take about 5 minutes with this form, it's got a free write and a question about our breath work we just did.
And the Google link is in the chat. And I've set the timer for 5 minutes, Selena.
Okay, great.
Let you know when we've reached that.
I don't see the link in the chat.
Oh yeah, if it was added earlier than people
Oh.
joined, then they wouldn't see it. So if someone can add that. Thank you.
I think Lily was going to put it in. No, that's not it. Lily, can you drop that in the chat, please?
Did you need me to stop sharing to add it?
I'm not sure.
Okay, hang on.
I
Let me
just added it. It's right there on the chat.
Okay, great.
You see
Thank
it?
you.
Says you need permission.
Yeah.
Oh, dang it. Did I do that? Okay, hold on. Let me fix that right now. I do have it open. Give me just a second.
Seem to be working now.
Yeah, if we hit refresh, it should work now. I think it was set to only Riverside Unified School District. Are we good?
I'm still not able to use it.
Did you hit
Ready.
refresh?
I did.
Okay, hang on. I might have to come off the chat and add this.
Yeah, no, it's still not letting me.
Me either.
Okay, hold on. Anyone on the internet with the link can edit it. I'm going to copy it and I'm just going to come off of the share long enough to pop this into the chat again. Here we go. How about now?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, great.
Okay, restarting the timer.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Is that working out?
see the chat, Selena?
I cannot see the chat.
They can only edit now. They can't fill it out.
Can't fill it out, yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
what's plan B? How do you want to handle it?
All right. Okay. All right. So I did get 6 responses, and I'm just going to go off of that.
Okay.
And this is what I got out of that was what I anticipated, which was really most people are noticing that they do breathe in their chest rather than their stomach. And then also noticing that the shoulders come up and down. And what we're about to discover is really how stress shows up in our body. And we're going to come back around to how directing our breath into our stomach is really going to be one of our biggest allies in cutting the stress response to situations. And as far as the feelings that people have right now, bringing them into this moment about their environment is, gosh, well, surprise, surprise. Yeah, there's a lot of stress in the work environment, and really the desire to have more patience and less frustration with how others are showing up in the world, because we can only control ourselves and we can't really control others, can we? So the next question is, if you can just put numbers into the chat, where you feel stress showing up in your body, in your physical body, where does it show up for you? Some of you might put all of the numbers, but if my co-pilots can let me know what are the responses here with this. So 1 for shoulders, 2 for headaches, 3 for emotional, 4 fatigue, 5 insomnia, 6 mental chatter, 7 feelings of defeat, and 8 unhealthy indulgences, 9 lack of focus. What do you got?
A lot of ones. Most people have the 1. A fair amount so a lot of shoulder tension, a fair amount of fatigue, 4s, and 5 insomnia. And a lot of people have many or multiple. So anywhere from 2 to 3, 4, or 5 of them. So they're all showing up, definitely.
Yeah. I'm definitely somebody who has had every single one of these at some point. Chronic migraines really are the thing that drove me to seek more tools for dealing with chronic stress situations. So that did lead me down the path of the yogi. You know, at one point I was told to cut my occipital nerves to get rid of the headaches. And I was like, you know what, let me explore yoga first. So I did do that. And then through that, I did learn a lot about our nervous system. And I'm so grateful to know how it actually works, because I feel like I've been able to hack into this software that we walk around in and be able to really override some of the responses that I was habitually getting myself into. So what it comes down to is that we really have this nervous system called the autonomic nervous system. And how many people here present today are familiar with our nervous system? Can you let me know? Do we have?
We have some yeses, but more predominantly no's.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so our autonomic nervous system is constantly going. It's constantly reading our environment for us. We have no control over the fact that it is constantly on. And it is made up of 2 different parts. And it's the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And I remember when I learned that that's what they were called, I was thinking, oh, sympathy, that must be the kind one. No, it's actually not. That's the one that puts us directly into the fight or flight. A lot of recent research has come out and added more F's to that list. It's fight, flight, freeze, fawn. I think that's all I can remember right now, but it's essentially the stress response. It's the one that's going to increase our heart rate, constrict our blood vessels, dilate our lungs. It reduces our ability to digest our food. That's why they say rest and digest. You cannot be in fight or flight and able to do all these functions that our organs are designed to do. We're basically in that fight mode as a result of a lot of things that just happen every day. And we need our fight or flight response, but it is overly activated for most people most of the time. It's useful if you're being chased by a tiger, and it's not so useful because our feelings are hurt. You know, it's going to turn on when we perceive that we are in danger in some kind of a way. So one of the things that we can do physiologically to override this system and take us from the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest. It's the ability to retain information. You know, we can't be very productive or proficient when we're in the stress response. So we need to be in the rest and digest to serve ourselves and to serve others, really. There is a nerve that is running down our body, and it is called the vagus nerve. So it is one of the longest nerves in our entire body. It goes from our brainstem all the way down to the kidneys. And what it does is when you stimulate this nerve, it takes you out of the stress response. So knowing this one key can unlock your reaction. So when you are having one of those moments where it's just been a day and that one person said that one thing one more time and it's your last nerve that they've gotten on, you actually have these tools where you can not allow it to take you over and take you into that fight or flight. If you notice that you're already there, we're going to be able to bring it back over to the parasympathetic rest and digest mode. So this vagus nerve is coming from our brainstem and going down both sides of our neck. And because of that, these different exercises like singing, humming, chanting, gargling, and abdominal breaths all are going to stimulate that nerve and bring us back into that rest and digest mode, completely, instantly ceasing the production of the stress hormones. So, let's see. Oh gosh, now I don't know how to share my little speaker notes. I'm gonna have to come off of share mode, and we're gonna do a little breathing or a little vagus nerve stimulation exercise together. So hang on a second. Stop sharing that.
Would tapping also fall under that? Or drumming?
No, that is a different thing that has to do with making our sensory experience activated. That does have its own merits. I'm not sure that it's directly correlated with the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is really specifically things that have to do with creating vibrations in the throat. Okay. And in the diaphragm. So after we do this little exercise with activating through making vocal sounds. I'm going to talk a little bit about the belly breath, and then we'll move forward some more. But first, let me see if I can share this video. So luckily, we're all in our own little bubble here. And this is actually embedded into the materials for this workshop as well. So in case you are in a place where you don't feel comfortable doing this right now, you can just, you can watch me do it, and you can do it yourself later on. But for those of you who are in a place where you can do this right now, I highly recommend it. So let me go ahead and share this one. Okay, can you see the
Yes.
video? Okay, great. And then let me know that you can hear it as well when I hit play. And we're just going to follow along. So this is 3 minutes, and we're literally going to do this right now. Okay.
Stimulate your vagus nerve is through vocalization. When you sing, you are constantly extending exhalation. So that's one of the ways that it helps. But also, we are humans, and one of our gifts as humans is communication. And when we sing together, when we sing out together, it regulates us, and that also stimulates our relaxation response, our homeostatic response, and makes us feel connected to one another. So I'm going to take you through 3 sounds. One is the sound. The second is the ah sound, and the third is the oo sound. Ah, oo. And so these are actually different structural places within your mouth and jaw that you do this. We also have a little fascia-facial massage video that you can do before you do this, and you might be surprised at your vocal sounds before or after doing the massage. You're going to have quite a difference. So the first one is this. You take an abdominal thoracic breath, and on exhale, you that vibration oscillates the air, and the vibration is also said to start to turbulate inside your nasal center and release nitric oxide. So that's a second way that we lubricate our vasculature. So that's a little secondary thing. The next sound is the ah sound. So in the ah sound, you really want to let your jaw, your mandible, drop. You take an abdominal thoracic breath, and there's like a giant apple in the back of your throat. You And as you make that ah sound, you want to allow the back of the throat to stretch, actually inducing stretch it within the mouth and jaw is yet another way to induce the relaxation response. And then the third sound is ooh, ooh, is an ooh sound. And so your lips create a little sphere right in front of your teeth, and you take an abdominal thoracic breath and and we're doing
All right. I would love to know who did that along with us. Who did it?
I did it.
Great. How did it make you feel?
Felt good. Felt relaxing.
So I actually held a lot of judgment about my own sound making. I'm a visual artist and not a singer. I think when I was a child, at one point I was told like, don't sing, which was terrible. And now I realize that I feel a lot better if I forget all about that and I go ahead and I sing in the car And I do find myself humming tunes when I feel anxious, and it helps me out a lot. And then I'm thinking about it, and my grandmother used to do this. She was always humming around the house. So now we know that that's a thing. And if we think back to different practices, there's the rosary practice, there's Buddhist chanting, there's all kinds of different practices across many different cultures and religions that involve singing together in groups. And I think this is why, like, it really helps us come into a good place. So the thing about the fight or flight as well is that we enter it when we perceive pain or danger. And one of the most interesting things is that we don't need to have a real physical threat in order to perceive that pain. So things like being betrayed, being disappointed, having your feelings hurt, showing up to a job that you don't want to do. These are actually stressors that light up the same areas of our brain. If you feel socially excluded, for instance, it's been studied that it lights up the same area of the brain as being punched in the face. Your brain doesn't know the difference between an emotional pain and a physical pain.
Selena, excuse me
Yeah.
for one moment. Do you want to bring the slide up full screen? Are you on emotional triggers right now?
Yeah, I am. Oh, okay. I thought it was. New share, screen 2. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, this one.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So, toxic relationships, suppressed emotions, all these things are building up and constantly lighting up that area of our brain that signals, oh, turn on that stress response. So even if you didn't just lose a limb, if you're in a bad place with a relationship or something like this, it is equally detrimental and equally important for you to recognize that you are in pain and give it the space and the care that it needs. So knowing how to override that nervous system is super helpful. So this is what I was talking about here, the sticks and stones. So here we are knowing that words hurt, and we can think, oh, well, people are generally pretty nice to me. We have to also think about our internal dialogue. So sometimes when we really start to take a look, we can begin to recognize that we have patterns of self-talk that maybe aren't helpful. So if we think about what happens when we look in the mirror, what do we tell ourselves? What happens when we are attempting to do something that we're not great at yet? What is our self-talk like? When we don't succeed the way we imagined we would in a task, how are we with ourselves? So how is that internal dialogue going? That's something really important to look at because it's just as real as when other people are talking to us. So yeah, is it time to upgrade your internal dialogue software? There are a lot of different programs running that we take for granted in the background. We grow up thinking like it's going to cost an arm and a leg, all these things that we just habitually throw around these words. And what are they doing to our internal belief system and our internal dialogue? How much is our subconscious buying into these things? So if you look at these bullet points here, how many of them can you identify with? People suck. One of my parents still says this. People suck. Love hurts. I'm always broke. I'll never ... Yeah, is there something you can fill in the blank with? I'm not enough. Being sick and tired. If only blank, then blank, or I'll be happy when blank. what is this really doing if we're running this kind of a dialogue? So with that in mind, there is the page.
The core beliefs checklist.
Yeah, that core beliefs checklist. And I would love if you could take a look at that for a moment and just put a little check mark next to any of them that resonate for you. If you already know some that came to mind when I was speaking about it, go ahead and just write it onto the page as well, because we're going to use this and we are going to flip the script in a moment. So let's go ahead and give like 3 minutes for this exercise here.
Okay.
All right. Have we found a few that maybe ring true for us?
I think I checked off 6, Selena.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely more than one for me. Well, the first time I saw that list, I was astounded. And actually my group of high school students that I worked with 1 year, where I first introduced this workbook, these young people were checking off so many of these boxes. I was amazed at the beliefs that they already were aware that they held. So mine that I have, I'll just share, is I don't deserve perfect health. I have a lot of weird little health conditions happening right now. I mean, not even little, it's just, so many things. And so that is one that I'm running right now and trying to override. Just to share. I mean, if anybody feels like sharing, you're welcome to share in the chat. Sometimes it's helpful to feel, seen and heard. So basically, the cool thing about this is not to like go dwell in our problems. We're not going to leave it here. The thing that I'm bringing to the table is neuroplasticity, and this is such a great gift. It's the fact that we can actually introduce new practices into our lives, and once we're aware that we're running these programs, we can turn it all the way around. It gives us power to change things. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that phrase, neurons that fire together wire together. And it's true. It's true forever and ever. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Basically, you just have to introduce the practices. So we can do that with ourselves. And it really does start with our internal dialogue. So practices, daily practices, and the things that we tell ourselves can be part of that rewiring. And this is where it gets really fun here. So we're going to actually take any one of those beliefs that you checked off, and we're going to flip it around and create some affirmations here. So here's a great example. I am worthy of what I desire. And I just, grabbed that from the internet. But I love it. I like to see that. That's a great thing that I would like to tell myself. So If the fact is that our perception is reality for our brain and nervous system, and the fact is that words hurt, the fact is also that we can feel by changing those words. So let's go ahead and get to Canva. So what we're going to be doing is creating a new daily affirmation out of that core belief. So with my example, I don't deserve perfect health. I am choosing to say instead, I trust my body and treat it well. So that is an example. I am going to need to stop sharing this so I can screen share and walk us through building our affirmation here in Canva.
I think it's so interesting too, you're pointing out sticks and stones, how we take in what other people say to us. But I think, at least for me, the things I say to myself, boy, I could really use an upgrade on that. So that's really interesting, that rewiring concept, that you don't have to be stuck in those old tapes, is what I call them, those old, that old saw, and get something fresh going that is really positive for you.
Yes, I agree. All right, so are we all able to go to Canva right now? Everybody?
Not everybody might be able, but if you can walk us through if you're doing yours, that would be helpful.
Okay, so here is Canva. Are we looking at my Canva page right now?
Yeah, it looks like your page.
Okay, great. So the first thing you do when you come in here is you go to create a design, and I'm just going to use the letter format. And this happens to be the template that
I recognize that.
Yeah, I've been using this lately. I really love the colors. But you're able to really create it however you want to. There's so many fun things to do in here, and you don't need to know how to draw. You can use these elements. And I want to put in sunshine. So you can find lots of different styles, lots of different images, and I'm choosing the sun right now to help represent my idea. And actually, this one makes me feel really good, so I'm going to choose that. And what we're going to do is just kind of take a couple of moments. Let's just take like 10 minutes, and whoever is playing along can create their new affirmation. So this right here is the text tool, and we can select different scales. If we come up to the top menu, there are your different fonts that you can choose. I like Bellina, that's why it's on the top, because I use it a lot. And we can just go ahead and start designing this nice little affirmation that we're going to get to use and remind ourselves of, because we can put it anywhere. We can use it as a screensaver. We can print it out and put it on our bathroom mirror. I've done that before. So my new affirmation is, I trust my body and treat it well. For me, that includes going outside every day, trying to walk around the block every day, resting when I need to rest.
Do you suppose if you had an affirmation for a while and you feel like you've mastered it, that you would go to another one and start working on that?
Absolutely, yes. And the template I'm going to share at the end of this session here is something that you can print out again and again, after however long, you could do one every week, you could do one a month, one a season, one a year, but you can recreate it as often as you want. So while you guys are playing around in Canva, if you have any questions about the tools or features and you want to ask me how to do something, please just feel free to ask me how to do anything you're trying to do in there. Yeah, and then also there was something I forgot to mention earlier. So I'll just talk about it now while we're playing around in here. And that is that the other way to stimulate the vagus nerve, aside from vibrations through the throat, is the diaphragmatic breathing. And that's just a anatomy way of saying belly breaths. So if you had your hand on your stomach at the beginning of class and you did not notice your stomach rising and falling, that is a sign to practice that. Practice breathing down low all the way into your stomach so that your hand can raise up and down. When I started practicing this, I was not good at it at all. I was a chest breather and a shoulder breather. And in order to learn how to direct my breath into my stomach, I laid flat on my back on the ground with my knees bent, because otherwise my back would hurt. And then I put my hand on my stomach and I practiced breathing until I was directing my breath down low enough for my stomach to rise and fall with the breath. So as you breathe in, your stomach should expand. And as you breathe out, your stomach should go down towards your spine.
Mm.
And this is how, if we watch a baby breathing or any animal at all, they breathe that way. And humans are the only ones who grow into such a stress state that we start forgetting how to breathe like that. That is our natural state of breath, and we can come back to it. It's now my natural state again, and it took me a while. It took me a really good long while. And I noticed that sometimes I do have to focus my breath there again. But for the most part, after a very intentional long practice, I'm more natural at it now.
I noticed after talking to you the other day when we were looking at the presentation, Selena, that I had to go to the dentist and I was having chest pains as I was driving up there because I was so nervous to have a crown. And when I got in the chair, I'm like, wow, you have to calm down. And I started working that stomach breathing just to get oxygen in and settle. And it absolutely worked for me because I thought, what am I going to do? Because I'm so anxious,
I love that. I'm so glad that. So I just did something on Canva where I brought in this picture and it went on top of everything else I just did. And I just wanted to point out to people, if you want to layer elements and you want to move them around, just make sure the element is selected by having it highlighted like this, and we can use position and push it backward. So that way we can reorder the things that are on our page.
It's a neat tool.
Yeah, I have so much fun with Canva. My other favorite digital art toy is PixArt. So I actually spend time going between PixArt and Canva a lot because PixArt has more options for filters and things, which can be just so fun. I do have the Pro tool on both of them because I use them so much. So like now I can add a shadow or make it neon. All kinds of fun things.
Which tool are you on in Canva?
Right now I am on the text tool and I use effects.
Okay, text and effects. And then where do people post these when we're done?
Okay, and then when we're all done,
I think we have like 3 minutes.
Yeah, so when you're done, what we're gonna do is hit share, and you can download it. The automatic is a PNG, I think, or it might be JPEG. Yeah. Okay, and then you just download it. And then I created a Padlet for us. How many of us teachers use Padlet? Anyone?
Sure, quite a few.
Yeah. Is that showing in my current screen share?
Yes.
The
Do you
Padlet?
want to put do you want to put the Padlet into the chat though?
Yeah,
Padlet,
let me
please.
go ahead and do that. Copy. Let's see. I finally found how I can see the chat at least while I'm presenting. I cannot see anything else,
It's a
but
lot of
that.
plates moving. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the Padlet link in the chat.
Yeah, and if you haven't used Padlet, you just come on over to it and you hit the plus sign. And you would think you use this little camera thing, but you don't. You use the upload one all the way to the left. And you can upload what you just made. I feel like my image here is so saccharine, sweet, and happy. Like almost obnoxious for probably most people, but for me, it's perfect. You know, I'm like, eat glitter. Okay.
It's your affirmation.
That's right. This is how I want to see it. So there's mine.
Oh,
I love it. And then, yeah, and then you can also edit it and you can add your name if you want. Yeah,
do you want to maximize the screen so maybe we can see a few more?
yeah, there we go. Well, there's that. And then I do have one last nugget to share with everyone, which is our daily rituals. You know, we can have affirmations all day long, but if we're pairing it with action, then, you know, change will probably be a lot slower. So I did want to take a moment and talk about that.
Okay, do you want to go back on to your presentation? We'll visit that right at the end.
Yeah, totally. We'll do that. I'm enjoying seeing
Awesome.
these. These are
I know.
beautiful.
Wow,
Yeah, these are great.
really well done.
Prayer for a miracle. I do also just really quick want to mention that I have the personal belief that shared visions amplify. You know, so by putting yours on here and having more eyes upon it makes it even more powerful to realize. All right, so we did that. Oh, and I even said that at the bottom of that slide. Okay. So here it is. Yes. What is our daily, what does your morning look like? Can we share in the chat? Be honest. Okay. What does your morning look like? You're on your way to work. What do you do? Rushing, chaotic. Yeah. Does anybody have it tight, dialed in? You do the same thing every day?
Getting kids ready for school, hoping to get to work on time. I remember those days.
Oh, yeah, Nancy,
Right.
the long drive. I had that long drive. I did the 50 miles a day for 16 years. This is my first year teaching in the same town I live. I started to love podcasts and audiobooks.
I have to pray a bit before I have to rush to work.
Ooh,
Especially-
chanting. Karen, that's awesome. Yeah.
Somebody makes it to the gym. Yay. Good for them.
Andrea, that's, yep, you got it dialed in. Coffee, breakfast, right? For study. Beautiful. Yes. So I started to cultivate a very loving for myself routine or ritual for my waking up and going to sleep a couple of years ago. And what that actually looks like is now I get up at 5:40. I wake up at 5:40 so that I have time to not rush. Oops, I just changed that. There we go. I don't turn on any screens. I brew my coffee. and I sit with my coffee and I look out the window. I just sit and stare for about a good 15 minutes before anything else. So I found that giving myself time, it has been incredibly helpful and supportive. So what I wanted to have us do,
We have about 5 more minutes, Selena.
yeah, there's one last little page in there. Sorry, I'm like lost my slide. Where did it go? Here, one last little page.
The affirmation page.
It's page 3 there.
The I love myself in the morning. And
Yes,
evening,
that
and
one.
be grateful. Okay. Do you have a slide for that, or it's just our handout?
I'm wondering, do I? Yes, okay,
There
there
it is.
There it is. So this is the thing I was talking about. So we have an affirmation we're going to play with right now, and that can be good for however long it's good for you. And you now have this template, but you can now also make your own template. But I'm going to encourage everybody to create one of these pages that includes your affirmation, because reinforcing it by writing it, putting it up where you can see it, this is going to be really helpful. And then writing in, what can you do upon waking, and what can you do before sleep that's different than what you do now? What one thing can you add or remove from how you do it right now that can add more self-care? And then last but not least, a little blurb on the bottom for you to add anything that you're grateful for. I remember to be grateful for. And the part of your resources has what's called the HeartMath Institute in there, and they have a lot of great studies on gratitude and how much benefit you get from just practicing gratitude every day. There's literally scientific studies on the physiological health benefits of being grateful in a state of gratitude. So I did add that to there for that reason. And there's also information about heart rate variability and things related to the belly breath, syncing your breath, paying attention to your breath. So if you're interested in any of that science and you want to know more, in your resources page, there is the HeartMath Institute.
Well, thank you for putting together those resources for us. I know on the affirmation page, I'm gonna have to figure out something in the morning because I just rush. That's it. I have nothing. So that's a new one for me. And then in the chat, Carolina messaged me that Louise Hay is another great affirmation author. So that's something else to know. And I love the Canva. I didn't want to mess with Canva and affect the recording, but I'm going to go try that here in a few minutes. So we have a couple more minutes before we wrap up. If you want to say hey to Selena or ask a question, we could probably do one or two questions.
I do see the question. Yeah, and I mean, I'm willing to stay for questions for sure. What made me start doing this research was chronic migraines and a lot of trauma in my life, honestly. Trauma and just not having the ability to ever take a moment, because, you know, we've got a family, I've got this family to support, and just, you know, getting through, and then realizing that I didn't want to rely on maybe these medications might help, maybe this surgery might help. And so what else could I do to reduce the amount of stress that I was under? And then once I started learning these things, and then I'm starting to become aware of other people's behaviors and energies, and I'm in this classroom full of young people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so stressed. And I had to stop going to the teacher's lounge because all of my colleagues were kind of like perpetuating that mental and emotional state that I was no longer subscribing to. And so I thought, you know, we don't get to learn this at home. I mean, if you're lucky, you do. However, most of us didn't. And And I wanted to bring something to the school system where more people could be impacted with this literal science. It's science and we can all practice it. And I feel like once you're in that mode of being, it actually does have a ripple effect. I noticed that me becoming more calm and centered and healthy affected my own circle and literally my teaching pod, and then my own classroom students. My room became that room that students would come and sit in at lunch just because they felt like it was a calm and peaceful place to be. And I didn't really do anything special to create that other than just shifting how I was.
Right. Well, at this point, we're just about to wrap up, but I want to thank Selena again very much for being willing to share her path and her journey on learning some of these tips and tricks. And I know when we first met to talk about it, I was like, I need all of these because I'm always rushing around and always intense. And I just thought it was interesting how right away, just first seeing our presentations of 2 or 3, I got right on it. So I think she has her email in the chat. I know Lily puts the link to her book. Not that we're in book sales, but if you're interested in following up on some of the things we talked about, they're all there for you. So Lily, my assistant, will send you out a feedback form. Please let us know how you feel about the presentation. Any positive comments that you have for Selena, I will pass along to her. And we wish you a lovely Thursday afternoon. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Selena.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.